What's up, guys? Car Guy V8 here with another video, and behind me I have my 1989 C1500 Chevrolet on the GMT 400 platform. Now that mouthful's out of the way, we're going to talk about some cons of owning a 1989 Chevrolet. Now specifically, these are going to be 88 to 94, as those are very similar. They're pre-airbag trucks. The 95 to 98 are super similar as well, but it's different interior, different engines, stuff like that. So we're just going to be focusing on the 88 to 94 in this video. And you probably already knew all that if you were watching this video. But there's not a whole lot to dislike about these trucks. I mean, they're to the point now where they're all of a sudden old school cool. You know, they're all over 25 years old, so they can be considered antiques in, I think, every state. But don't quote me on that, at least in this state. It's 32-year-old truck. Yeah, 2021, 89. So 32-year-old truck. Listen at me doing math. All right, but let's get right into it. This truck, of course, as I already mentioned, is an 89. And it has the 305 5-speed. And yes, it was spray painted. No, not by me. I bought it like this for a great deal, actually. And it's pretty nice for what I paid. Now, 1 year ago, timelines get all mixed up with vehicles, you know, if you own as many as I do. 1 year ago, I bought this before this huge market surge for $1,500 without these wheels. These wheels I put on it myself, and they seriously transformed the look of the truck. Back with the old wheels, it kind of looked like a $1,500 truck. But nowadays, you know, if I sold it like this, it's $3,500, $4,000. But that's not what this video is about. It's about the cons. So the first one I'm going to mention, let's take a look at this interior first. It's got the typical 80s, early 90s GM interior quality. The electronics on the radio and AC controls are known to be finicky. They'll go out. Sometimes you have to find a replacement. Other times, like this one, I don't have the key in the ignition. But sometimes the controls will work. Other times, only like 4 or 5 of the buttons will work. And one way to fix that is you can disconnect the battery and let it sit for a little while, then reconnect it, and that works some of the time. But sometimes the electronics are just fried and it's time to replace it. So if you're looking to buy one of these, that's a possibility. And another thing is, now this is just with old trucks in general, or old vehicles, the doors sag. So that's not exclusive to this old body style Chevy, but it is something that if you're going to buy a truck, most likely if it hasn't been, say it's not a pristine show truck or something, a lot of times guys will just let it sag, you know, and body lines still line up. And yes, since it's spray painted, look at that. It's hot out here. All that goes away once, you know, the humidity goes down. But you see it sags a little. I'm going to pick up under here. Watch the door. Doesn't sag a whole lot, this door, but every old truck I've ever had door sags and could use new door pins. This one's actually missing the piece from right here. I noticed that the other day whenever I was putting WD-40 on the doors. Yes, WD-40, the wonder chemical. Let's pop the hood. Sometimes the hood doesn't pop first try, so you come up here, smack it right there, and it pops right up. But with here, we've got a 305. As you can see, my 305 is carbureted, and that is not factory. I did not put this carburetor on. The previous owner did. And the carburetor on it, I actually did put that one on, but I did not carburate it, is what I meant to say. It had a 600 CFM on there that was all junky and trash, but I put this one on that's off of my 79 over there. But these were factory throttle body injected units, and those are kind of finicky as well. And a lot of guys change these out to carburetors, especially with the 5-speed, because it's so easy with the 5-speed. You don't have to worry about any transmission cables to shift the automatic or anything like that. And I've done a decent amount to this. You know, I put the furniture on it, and what I mean by that is the new air cleaner, that fuel pressure regulator, the breather, and that brake booster over there. So the engine's had some dress up. Yes, there's wires still kind of, you can see the wires from where the previous owner just kind of left them around. I wasn't too impressed with his work. But anyway, that's a different video. We're talking about cons. And the cons would be these throttle body injected engines, 305, 5.7, 350. They're not powerful. This 305's rated at 170 horsepower, and I think it was 255 foot-pounds of torque. Might have been 270, but I'm thinking it was 255. So they have plenty of torque to pull a trailer or so, but they run out of steam so fast. They're definitely not powerhouses. You put a cam in these and headers, and it really only makes 240, 250. You have to put new heads on it if you want any kind of power out of these. And personally, I probably wouldn't do that with a 305, but you can make healthy power because it's just a small block Chevy with the smaller bore. But that was the other con, the TBI engines. You get one of these, you just need to know right off the bat, you're not going to be making a lot of power unless somebody has thrown a carburetor on it, put long tubes, and done all that stuff I just said. The throttle body unit, some people do put tunes on them in the computers, and they do make more power, but how much more? Not enough to really be bragging to your friends, hey, my TBI makes 235 horsepower. You know, definitely not the best thing to brag about. One thing I forgot to mention when going over the interior earlier is that the dash in these 80s and 90s GM cars likes to crack. And mine's no exception. You know, crack there, here, and we've got one over here. Let's see. Yeah, right there. And that's an old GM thing, even old Ford. You know, these plastic dashes, dash pads, all that, they like to crack. And this truck has 227,000 miles on the body, and it's no surprise that there's some cracks, but it's actually not as bad as some I've seen. I've seen some that are way worse. Now, another electronic thing we can mention is the fuel pump on these. Old GM fuel pumps, they just like to go out. Factory ones are the best, but once you start replacing them, a lot of times you're going to keep on replacing them every few years. You might get lucky and get high miles out of one, but that's a wear item. Mine still uses the factory fuel pump, even though it's carbureted, but I've got the fuel pressure regulator. Also, the coil, mine has an HEI in it, so mine's a little different, high energy ignition distributor, but the factory TBI had a coil separate from the distributor, if I'm thinking correctly, and it's another GM wear item you just have to be aware of. The electronic stuff is probably the biggest con on an old truck like this, because this was a point in time where things are still simple enough, the average man can work on it, but times are starting to get more advanced, and you see more and more electronics as the years go on. But as you see, guys, even all those cons I mentioned, there are probably more that I missed. But even through all those cons, it doesn't subtract to the value of these trucks. I mean, they're really cool. And the paint job on this was actually what made me want it. And I got it for a good deal too, because I knew I could make a ratty, cool, older truck. And that's kind of what I've done. And so even dismiss the paint all you want. I know it's not pretty, but to me, the setup I've got is perfect on this truck. And yes, there are cons to it. There's cons to any vehicle, but in my opinion, you got to go out and pick you up one of these. They are pretty nice, pretty cool trucks, even though they're slow, they're anemic. 5-speed, you know, actually shifts really good. This is a cons video, but I thought I would mention that. The 5-speed's the smoothest shifting 5-speed I've ever driven. I'll leave y'all with that. Thank y'all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.